I know a lot of people have asked me about when I'm going to come back to Final Fantasy. I'm going to come back and play Final Fantasy whenever the Johnny Depp trial is over. That's when it's going to happen. She's so hot. Shit! I have managed to unlock it. I have it, I'm good to go. I have done it.
Why does anyone care what this fat, bald, superficial, insecure, hair plug fatty thinks?
I have to sit here and fucking have to listen to all you and all your bullshit.
That's true.
And as soon as I decide I don't want this fuckface in my chat anymore, now I'm the bad guy because I've taken control of who I want in my stream and who I don't.
Be a man! Ban them!
Idiots, man.
If you have people that get you pissed off, that make you mad, the best thing that you can do, never show weakness.
Welcome to another video. Yes, before you guys are pulling out your guns, summoner books, weaver needles, or whatever weapon you have access to right now, Asmongold has not officially returned yet, and it might already annoy many people to have content creators talk about it before it actually happened. On the other hand, some might be excited to hear these news, as they had a blast when the literal god came over to Final Fantasy XIV, bringing in a really hyped influx of new players. Or maybe even to start the game another time and taking a look from a different perspective. I mean, you can love or hate this dude, but even Yoshi-P openly admitted the insane impact that Asmongold and Ridge had on the massive influx of new players trying out Final Fantasy XIV. And I'm totally honest with you guys, I was anxious and worried about this event happening as well. But being a content creator like many others, this led to a massive rise to a broader stage, and I believe there are other Final Fantasy XIV creators that had an even bigger push. So whatever you might think of Zack as a player, MMO gamer, or simply as a human individual, he was the simple reason that for a certain period of time nobody could buy Final Fantasy XIV or create an account for it, which is crazy if you think about that. So even if it might just be hearsay, it makes sense for him to come back now, with a WoW expansion on the horizon and many other big games that came out at the start of this year that have decreased in popularity significantly now. Which means it is a very good time for him to finish Stormblood, Shadowbringers and Endwalker. But why should Asmongold be considered the savior of Eorzea or Final Fantasy XIV in general? The first reason being kinda obvious. We are expecting a big content drought until August, where supposedly the new Savage raid tier will be released. Yes, there's lots of stuff coming out, like relic weapons and hopefully armor, but as we haven't seen any announcements or mentions into that direction, it might take a while and could get delayed past the usual release schedule. So, having a big personality like Asmongold join Aetheris will be mostly beneficial for the game to keep its audience and by attracting some new players. However, there are two more aspects that I believe can be solved better by a personality like Asmon, who has such a wide range of audience and impact even on gamer communities that don't even know that they're affected. In my opinion, one of the biggest problems of Final Fantasy XIV is that even though it could be just a very small portion of players, it is a very loud one, and one that seems to catch the attention of Yoshi-P. Those people are constantly gatekeeping against many new players that want to fall in love with Final Fantasy XIV as well. So much so that they are getting even more toxic than those people they fear, and often resort to hate speech and threats to content creators, streamers or basically all other players. And believe it or not, these are just not the usual weirdos besetting literally every streamer and being weird and stupid inside of big discussions and rants. No. These are legitimate panic mongers that emit serious fear of everything that can possibly change their game into a direction they're either not used to or they decline out of bad experiences in their gamer history, like when they came from WoW for example. And don't get me wrong, they're sometimes right. It is a logical process that with every wave of people coming into a community, there will be assholes among them, and not even in a small number. But it is really important to not mindlessly repudiate all that is unfamiliar and strange to your accustomed environment. Sometimes it is actually the exact opposite. Good change and progress can be achieved much more frequently when someone takes a look into the subject from a totally different view than we do, as we are bound to subjectivity, emotions, and a composition of our memories. Just ask some veteran players. Damn yes, Heavensward was so good, the combat system stood out so much and complexity was enforced by bosses and your job. However, the changes in Stormblood and Shadowbringers were still a logical consecution of leading the game into its future. And sometimes it's nothing more than just good memories that make these times look much better. Yes, classic WoW might be a counter-argument, but on the other hand, its quick decrease in popularity isn't, which serves as the perfect indication for nostalgia kicking in, settling, and then waking up into reality. that maybe striving for past moments to relive them again is often just a simple recreation of memories and drifts away like a soft whisper in the wind. And this is exactly where someone like Asmongold can bring the change, not only for his massive followership, but for being a very reasonable and knowledgeable expert who experienced communities die and rise again, as well as the whole streaming background, which even though some might not realize it, it's a very essential part of a game's success and population these days. Remember what Yoshi-P said? There it is, dude. On top of that, we had the very furious and ambivalent discussion about third-party tools in Final Fantasy, where on the surface level and in the ideas of some narrow-minded people, it is as easy as they are forbidden, don't use them. Simple as that. But the reality shows that it is not that easy, in whatever orientation you want to read this chapter of the Final Fantasy XIV history book. And I believe that someone like Asmongold could reunite the sides a bit, or at least bring up some really spot-on arguments, speaking for or against each side in a very reasonable and fair manner. But yeah, the big reason here is neutrality again, and in this case it is particularly good that Asmon has a kinda hardcore background but shifted over to the more casual side of things. And while he personally doesn't like parsers or add-ons, making games easier or more convoluted, he already interviewed a developer of said mods and acknowledged many arguments that the modder made, and why a not insignificant fraction of the player base is using add-ons and third-party tools. Like I said, it is not as easy as some might think. There are definitely lots of arguments for either side, and even if Square Enix is claiming to drive a no exceptions, no third-party policy on paper, as clearly shown by the past Final Fantasy XIV history, through multiple cases where tools have been promoted or at least used, they kept their hands still to avoid any further conflict, which is a good way to handle ambivalent topics. So, while in my purest honesty, I'm super excited to see Asmongold return from the perspective of a content creator alone. I do believe that even as a player, even when it's just from the connection to the developer team and their success, the return of the one true king is a welcoming thing to happen. And if you believe Asmon to be a toxic and warmongering dickhead bringing only the trash WoW community into your beloved Final Fantasy XIV, that really is your problem. And I'm confident that Asmongold will demonstrate again how much he can appreciate a good game when he's playing it. He's no WoW Andy anymore, he has turned into a grand wizard of game enjoyment, and with his range and impact on Twitch or YouTube, it is great to see him saddle his shadow facts to arrive on the first light after Johnny Depp's final trial day. But of course, it is up to you if you look to the east at dawn. Until then, stick around for the game we love and want to become even better in the future. And instead of preparing for war to fight against people disagreeing with your take on it, try to argue with reason and logic so that they understand your perspective. As all things on this world are subject to the point of view of one single mind, and while there is only one truth to be told, that truth has different facets to different people. And remember, being loud doesn't increase the value or validity of your opinion. In fact, often by the very nature of being the loudest, those opinions are typically the furthest from reality.